Hey everyone, welcome back to Triumph Review. Sorry I am a little bit late on this. I've been very busy recently, and we had some recording issues with the next bingo video that's coming up in a few days here. But today we are going to be looking at the moon. Just like with the Dreaming City, I technically am missing one Triumph, and again it is doing the raid with a full fire team of Strand subclasses. The reason I don't have this done yet is because I'm waiting to put it in a video, simply put. But again, I feel like I'm qualified to talk on these considering I have all the other ones. And we're actually going to start on the World tab over here just to get these out of the way pretty quickly. Let's go to the World section here. There are only 2 Triumphs here. For some reason, I don't even really know why this is its own section. I think they could literally just combine these. Like, this just doesn't make sense. But doing all the lost sectors and getting Deathbringer, pretty easy stuff. You'll do this basically by doing the Shadowkeep campaign and then the Deathbringer quest. So pretty standard stuff. In terms of exploration, you already know we have all the pretty standard stuff. We have the Tolan patrols. These are the ones with the little ghost icon. Very easy to knock out. Region chests, of course, the rabbits, which are the little go collect these things. But the moon actually has a second sort of collectathon item, which is dead ghosts. I believe these are some sort of bounty you can get by turning in certain consumables, and there are 10 of them. There are 9 out on the moon, and then there is 1 in the Pit of Heresy. And then, of course, we have all the upper tier Lost Sector Triumphs, pretty easy. The moon lost sectors are not really a challenge. They certainly were when they came out, but these days, like, again, this is kind of the theme with a lot of these old Triumphs. Like, we saw this with Dreaming City, we'll see this with the moon. We have just power crept them so much. These are not really even that difficult compared to, like, the Pale Heart lost sectors. Like, these are easy. So now let's go back over here to Shadowkeep. All of this is just campaign stuff. If you do the campaign, you will get all of these easy peasy. Now we have the Nightmares tab. First up, the Wandering Nightmares Triumph. These are on a 4-week rotation, so it can take you between like a little over 2 weeks to almost a month to get this Triumph. But I really like this one. It's another one of those kind of world building ones. If I remember correctly, the RNG on these are not too bad in terms of spawning these enemies. So this is a fun one to go do, and I like these sort of challenges. The rest of these have to do with the Nightmare Hunts. Completing all the Nightmare Hunt time trials, I believe this gives you an emblem. I'm quite certain it's this one. Yeah, complete all Nightmare Hunt time trials on Master Difficulty will get you a Sybil's Dreams. This is a pretty cool emblem. I really like it. I used to run it back when I first got this Triumph back in, I think, Season of Arrivals, back when I first started Triumph chasing, and Harbinger was one of the first titles I got. Other than that, you have to complete a Nightmare Hunt on Master and one on Master without dying. I mean, these days Nightmare Hunts are such a joke. Like, they're just so easy. Nobody even really does them anymore. You have all the time trials here. Back in the day, these were kind of challenging, but now you can breeze through them super easily. Just get a couple of friends and you can do them. These do rotate weekly, so it's going to take you a bit of time to get these all done, but if you just stay consistent and watch the weekly rotation, you will get these done no problem. If I remember correctly, the longest time trial is Crota, and the requirement is completing it in less than 15 minutes. If you look online, there are plenty of graphics that will show you what all the time trials are, but if you've done like a Master Nightfall, this will be pretty easy for you. Okay, Altars of Sorrow. Complete a tier 5 nightmare boss. This is just completing Altars of Sorrow. These are actually somewhat difficult, or grindy, I guess. This one in particular, this was the last Moon Triumph that I got that wasn't related to like the Pit of Heresy or Garden of Salvation subclass runs. This took me forever because I just didn't want to grind it. And it doesn't tell you how many waves you have to do. You have to look in some sort of API source, like dim or light.gg. This will just tell you percentage. And I want you to guess right now. Just take a guess how many waves you think it is. You don't have to comment it or anything, just think. But the answer is 500 waves. That is over 83 full completions of altars. I don't know a single person who wants to do that much altars of sorrow. The loot isn't even that good. It's not even that engaging of an activity. If you have some weapons you need to go level, like some crafted weapons, you don't have the resources to spend to level them up, go do some altars, I guess. Go grind out this triumph, but god damn it, this thing takes forever to do, and it was such a pain. This one is slightly easier. If you do waves on waves, you will get this one. If I remember correctly, it is 1,000 nightmares. Easy stuff. It's really not that bad, right? So yeah, this is not that bad. This one will take you some friends to do. I believe the requirement is defeating the nightmare boss within 1 minute. But those guys are pretty on the spot with health gating. So this can be kind of a pain. You might have to do more than one damage phase. But we have a lot of really good damage options in the game right now. So, you know, grab a couple friends. This may take you a few tries. You may have to put on like some of the Dreambane armor or like Nightmare Banishing mods even. If you can, you know, if you have the armor for it. I would certainly recommend that because, you know, a minute is a short time span to kill one of these bosses. And then finally, tier 5, killing all nightmares without having any of them sacrifice. This one, these days, is super easy. I think a lot of nightmares just get bodied as soon as they walk out of the, like, spawn areas, assuming there's, like, more than one person there to actually play the event. So these days, this is not that hard. Moving on to Pit of Heresy. Pit of Heresy is, I think, a very unique dungeon. It really kind of strays away from the mold of having 2 bosses and a mechanics encounter, right? Pit of Heresy, you have the Necropolis, the like ogre tunnel section, the Chamber of Suffering, the maze section, and then the final boss. So it's all very different from any of the other dungeons. I would say these days this is a pretty easy solo flawless. The only problem would be the boss room, specifically all the curse thralls that come out during damage phase versus Zolmak can be kind of a pain to deal with. I know the strat back in the day was like Bubble Titan and putting on a sword, like I think Throne Cleaver was a strat for a while there. But yeah, these days, you know, you really just play survivability. The thing with flawlessing dungeons, solo flawlessing dungeons, is that if you have the patience, you can get it done pretty much, as long as you know how to play your life really well. Also in here, you have the xenophage quest. This is a fun exotic quest. There's a secret boss in the dungeon, and I remember doing this, and it was just a ton of fun. Highly recommend doing the xenophage quest, not even for the gun, just for the experience, because it is that fun. Finally, let's talk about the Garden of Salvation triumphs before we move on to titles. For such a raid that people love to shit on, they cooked with these challenges. I think these are some of the most creative challenges that we've had in Destiny raiding, and I really like them. Of course, you have the standard completed clan, you know, all the subclass and class triumphs, whatever, flawless. Our flawless run is actually up on my channel. It's kind of bad quality and it's from a long time ago, but it is there if you want to watch it and see how we did it. Compared to some of the other raids, this isn't too difficult of a flawless. The jumping sections are not as scary as like the Last Wish jumping section or the Vow of the Disciple jumping section. For Garden, you know, it's pretty tame. Yeah, overall, not too terrible of a flawless, I would say. But moving on to the good stuff, we have the challenges. First off, we have the Staying Alive challenge. This one is pretty simple. In first encounter, just don't kill the Cyclopses. Not really a challenge, and I would say this is one of the worst challenges in the raid. It's just so uncreative, but that's going to flip around pretty quickly in a second here. Also, for first encounter, we have Voltaic Tether. Only people who have Voltaic Overflow can tether. This just requires your teams swapping sides a little bit. You know, whoever picks up the spit on the floor has to go tether. So it's just a little bit of coordination, a little bit of fast movement. Put on Eager Edge, you'll do fine with this, really. But overall, Pretty cool challenge. A link to the chain can be kind of a pain in the ass if your team is not coordinated. Basically, everyone needs to get enlightened within like a few seconds of each other. The way that you do this is you have people group up and tether in 2 groups of 3 every so often, instead of having the runners just going back and forth between their spots. And like I said, it is kind of a pain, but it's definitely a creative challenge. So I think this one's all right. Definitely one of the 2 harder challenges in this raid, though. And then also we have repulsion theory for second encounter. These days we have stasis to just slow and freeze everything. So this one's not even an issue. You just can't tether while you have the buff. So just wait for your buff to run out, you know, slow enemies, freeze enemies, blind them, whatever. I mean, this is so easy now that we have stasis. The to the top challenge for third encounter is basically just dunking moats in stacks of 10. This one, you know, should be pretty easy. We have Eager Edge now for fast movement to get over to the conflux once you have enough moats. You can also have someone go there and again, use stasis turrets, use whatever to freeze or slow or blind enemies while they're making their way towards the conflux. So this one is not that bad anymore. And yeah, it's another one that's just kind of creative, you know? Who would have thought of banking 10 moats at a time, because most people like to do the 5 10 10 5 strat. Also for encounter 3, defeat the consecrated mind without allowing any player with the relay buff to kill a combatant. Basically, as far as I can tell, what this means is if you're enlightened, you're not allowed to kill anything. You are only allowed to remove the shields, which just means basically having 2 people over there. Nowadays, the problem is actually probably being mindful of splash damage, or like buddies if you're on Warlock, just accidentally killing anything instead of worrying about the enemies reaching the actual conflux. It's interesting to see how that the problem has almost kind of reversed in a way. It's kind of interesting, but another good challenge for sure. The 0 to 100 challenge is kind of similar to a link to the chain, where it requires doing something in a short amount of time. In this case, it is banking all 30 moats into each of the confluxes within a few seconds. I saw a guide online that said to send in 2 people who would each grab 9, send in a third who would grab 10, and then send in the first 2 people again to go grab 1 each, and then everybody banks at the same time. That seems like a pretty good way to get this done. I honestly can't remember how I got this one done, but another challenge that requires a little bit of thinking outside the box, so definitely a good one. Arguably the hardest challenge alongside a link to the chain, and definitely the most creative challenge, is Stop Hitting Yourself. This requires you to kill 20 Vex by having the boss summon platforms, or by building platforms wherever the enemies are and thus killing them. You can use stasis for this. I'm pretty sure back when I did this before stasis was released, the strategy was to take the heads off the goblins, and that way they would follow someone and you would either build there, or the boss would like take that platform away. I think there was also a strat where you could force the boss to take away certain platforms, either by like drawing out the whole boss encounter and taking away like every plate until there's just one left, and you just keep rebuilding it and the boss keeps taking away and whatever. There's a myriad of solutions to get this done, so just use whatever your fire team and you agree on. But this is probably the most creative challenge in Destiny raiding history. I mean, like this is just such a weird one, but definitely a very cool challenge, a very neat idea. Finally, let's talk about the titles, starting with Harbinger. I think that this is a very good destination title. It's a little bit trickier maybe than some of the others. It even requires doing Pit of Heresy solo. So this is definitely a little bit harder than some of the others, especially back in the day. I remember this was a rare title for a long time just because of the difficulty. You also had to do all the Nightmare Hunt time trials, right? Which requires you to do all those on Master within that short amount of time. I really have no notes for Harbinger. I like that it upped the difficulty of Destination Triumphs a little bit. I think Harbinger is a very cool name too, a little bit underrated. So yeah, definitely very good. No notes here really. And then we have Enlightened, and the one notable thing about Enlightened is that it used to require Flawless Garden, and then they removed it. You no longer have to get Flawless Garden of Salvation in order to obtain this triumph, and this is where the permanent change was made to remove Flawless Raids as a requirement from the raid titles, which, as you know if you've watched my other videos, I do wish was still a thing. So this is where it all started. I said this in my Discord, which you should join, by the way, but I believe that Enlightened, before they removed the Flawless requirement, was a perfect raid title. It is just the standard of all the raid titles we've basically had since, plus the Flawless. And, you know, Ravensbane is good. Ravensbane, you know, it's about the same, I would say, but it has a few little weird differences, and also less encounter challenges. For Ravensbane, there's only one challenge per encounter. There's not even one for Queen's Walk, whereas for Garden, there's 2 per encounter. But that's really all I have to say about Enlightened and about the Moon Triumphs. Highly recommend doing most of them, except for the Altars of Sorrow ones that are really grindy. Those are such a pain in the ass. If you're not a Triumph Hunter, then just don't do them. If you are a Triumph Hunter, good luck holding on to your sanity, doing over 83 full runs of Altars. And that's about it. So thank you for listening to my opinions, and I will see you later.